Right. Today's proverb is no matter how long the night, the day is sure to come. And that is from Zaire. When I think about this proverb, I think about times in my life that have been dark. Like when I left my first husband, and that relationship was one of intimate partner abuse. That whole process of deciding to leave, leaving and recovering was pretty dark. But now, oh gosh, is it 20 years later, something like that? Things couldn't be brighter and happier. But when you're in the middle of those times, it's really, really hard to remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel. When you're in the middle of the tunnel, you can't see light at either end. So a proverb like this helps us remember that even when we can't see the light, it's still there. And as long as we keep going, eventually we will get to the light at the end of the tunnel. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out for support while you're in those dark times and try to find the ways, the people, the tools to help you hold on until you get to the other end. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'd love to hear if anybody else wants to share, because I find that it's so helpful to, especially when we're in a dark time, to think back to other times when things were dark, when things were difficult, and we survived, right? Because we've come through that now. So to go back into those spaces and remember, it was difficult, but I made it. I find that that helps me have the strength to make it. And if not my story, there are so many other stories. There's Oprah's story, there's Maya Angelou's story. Like there's so many other stories of Black women that we know went through dark times and made it through. And we're not only survivors, but victors over those challenges. So, I find that really helpful. Would anybody like to share? Angela.
My mantra is, this too shall pass.
That's a great one.
I use that quite often because I think of my grandmother, 16 years old, had my mother, and she was born in Trinidad. My mom was born in Panama. And her mother sort of disowned her. So I thought about having 5 kids and was a washwoman in Panama. And she became a maid for the American soldiers in the canal. So I thought about her, and here we are. We are more educated. We have opportunities, and this too shall pass.
Yes.
We remember our ancestors had it rougher. So I have to look at it, no matter how much I feel like I'm stressed, this too shall pass, because I have the opportunity to talk to someone like you. Or other means of releasing whatever it is. They didn't have any options. And that's how I feel right now.
Thank you so much, Angela. That is such a good thing to remember. This too shall pass. That's shorter and it's succinct, and it really does help you remember that everything will pass eventually. And for bringing in our ancestors, I know that during my darkest time, but as I was dealing with that divorce, I often thought about the fact that at least I'm not a slave, right? Whatever's going on, at least I'm not a slave, because I know that whatever this is bad, but that had to be so much worse. And they survived. They survived so that I could be here and I could thrive. So I would be doing them a dishonor, my ancestors a dishonor, to give up before I get to the other end of the tunnel. So that is such a powerful message. Thank you so much, Angela. Susan, did you want to share?
Yes, I agree with you and Angela. That is my go-to when I need to replenish my strength and my power and to be resilient. I had taken a trip to Sierra Leone, and I bonded so much with a sexton of a church, and he told us the stories about when the enslaved people were freed and they came to this church and they built it with the skills that they learned during slavery, and how this church has been standing for all those years without needing a lot of repairs, at least to the roof. And we know that when you have a home, you have to replace that roof, and it's so expensive. But that was so amazing. But just talking to him, I just felt so connected to him. And on the trip, on the plane ride home, I had a dream that was so vivid because we had also gone to Banana Island, which was part of the enslavement and getting on the the Middle Passage. This dream was where I had a brace around my neck, which is what, of course, they put on a lot of enslaved people. And I was walking, I was being forced to walk out into the water, not being put on a ship, but just being forced to walk out into the water as the water was rising and I was about to drown. I could see clearly down at my feet and I started flailing, trying to grab onto something. And I just saw that it was the face of that man from the church. It was like I was him. And it was so vivid that I got startled when I woke up and I just grabbed over to the man. I punched the man next to me because I was flailing so much. But I always go back to that because when I think of how the enslaved people were so brave, you know, in sometimes going on the ships, the mothers taking themselves and their children and jumping overboard to die rather than to go into the life that they knew they were going to have to live in misery. So I think of those times of what they went through mentally and physically, and that's what tells me if they went through that, I can go through this. So that's what gives me my power, gives me my power back when I feel weak and sorry.
Thank you so much for sharing, Susan. So powerful, such vivid dreams. And that return to the motherland, I went to Ghana and saw the places where they held us, the places where they shipped us. And it's life-changing and definitely really helps you understand how much our ancestors had to endure for us to be here. Thank you. Would anybody else like to share? Okay. Oh, this is so powerful. And one of the wonderful things about such meetings I've found when I'm not running them and being in them is that even when you don't share, like listening to others, being here together can be so helpful, so powerful, so supportive, that just being in this space, even this virtual space, right? Which I know many of us prefer the in-person space, but the virtual spaces, I've gotten used to it, and it's still a pretty convenient and useful thing to know that community is one of the ways our ancestors survived, right? Helping each other, supporting each other, talking to each other, even when they didn't speak the same language, which happened a lot here in the United States. But just that being in the experience together was really helpful. So this is an opportunity for us to be in this moment together, to support each other and to help each other remember that the day will come, right? The light at the end of the tunnel. This too shall pass. Okay, I'm going to put on our affirmation, and then we will, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to share after I do the affirmation, we will end with a breath square so you all can leave with a few minutes of peace. Okay. So the affirmation for today is, during times of misfortune, I patiently stand in inner peace. And remembering this too shall pass helps us patiently stand in inner peace. And how ironic that the word patient is in this affirmation, because that's what I'm working on with my one word of the year focus. Now I'm working on patience, right? The patience to let things pass in divine time and not to rush ourselves out of the opportunity to learn whatever lessons are happening in that darkness. Because those are also opportunities, great opportunities to learn our lessons during those challenging times. So would anybody else like to share before I launch into a story about lessons? Because we have a couple minutes. So I've got a good story that this just reminded me of. Okay, so when we think of lessons from the challenging times, from the darkness, from when you're in the middle of that tunnel, I think of working with, I'll call her Miss J. And Miss J came to work with me individually because she'd been at a job, she'd been happy, now she's at this new job, and she was really unhappy. And she said she wanted to get happiness back. She wanted to find her inner peace again. So we started kind of exploring, well, what were the things that were leading to her unhappiness? Why wasn't she happy? And a lot of it had to do with the current job that she was in. She didn't feel like it was a good fit. She didn't feel like she was valued. Some of the things that she enjoyed about the other job were missing there. Some of this was a COVID issue that she didn't get to interface with people in the same way because this was all virtual. But a lot of it had to do with the job itself, and the job in terms of what she was doing, and the job in terms of the community that she was in. And so then she was fired. And when she was fired, I had to help her get a mindset shift out of, oh my gosh, I should have worked harder. I didn't do a good enough job. I'm not smart enough. They didn't like me. How embarrassing is this to be fired? She's in her 50s, closer to retirement than new. How embarrassed. And so I helped her make this mindset shift to, instead, and language is a really powerful thing for making these shifts. Instead of fired, to being released from this job, because she didn't like the job, right? So she's upset that she was fired, but the reality is she hated the job. So she was actually released. And not only was she released with an incredible severance package, like enough money so she did not have to work for a year, right? Enough money so that she could bless her children with, helping them get stabilized, right? So this was actually quite a blessing, but it was really about how she was looking at it, right? And many things are neither good nor bad. It's about how we look at them. So I helped her make this mindset shift to seeing this as a blessing, this time, right? So now she had the time that she didn't have before because she was busy staying up late trying to do the work that was just impossible for her to do. She had the money, right? And she didn't have to worry about money, at least not for a year. So she had plenty of time to find a new position. And she was released from a job she didn't like. So once we got that mindset shift done, then I started getting her to think about, well, where do you want to work, right? What would work for you? Let's try to help you attract to you the right job, the right atmosphere, the right community. And she created a vision board, right? A vision board that helped her get clarity on the kind of place she wanted to work, what things were important to her, like working with people, like actually seeing people, connecting with people, not just working with paper. Opportunities to do more than just the kind of work she was doing, but to mentor and to really help support younger people coming up in her field. So she created this beautiful vision board. And within, I believe, 6 months, she got a new job, right? And so once she got that new job, now the next shift was helping her adjust, because she then, of course, within 6 months, she got used to having this freedom of getting up and going for walks and having all this extra time. So life is constantly shifting, right? Change is the only constant in life. Things are always changing. So we always have to shift, but we can do that. So then I helped her. She'd come up with this great way of taking care of herself, going for walks and yoga and all this other stuff. Now she's back to work and she's got a full-time job again. So then we had to talk about, well, how do you continue taking care of yourself, even as you're working? How do you adjust? How do you make sure that this is a good fit for you? But, a couple months later, as we talked about it, she was happy with this job was a much better alignment with her values. It gave her the opportunity to mentor people. She enjoyed what she was doing, and therefore she felt more peaceful. Now, the reality is we are wherever we are, and there are things we can do to find peace, even when we are in places that are not particularly happy, but it is much easier when you're in alignment, right? When wherever you're working, whoever you are with in terms of intimate partner relationships or friendships have similar values so that you are in alignment. So she ended up being happy and enjoying her work, enjoying the people she was working with, feeling like things were in alignment. She got to the other end of that tunnel but she needed support and help when she was in the darkness, to see the lessons, to see the opportunities, to make that mind shift. And we can't always do that by ourselves. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need professional help. Sometimes we need a friend. Sometimes we need a journal. Sometimes we need a prayer. Right? And it's okay to reach out for help and support whenever you need it. Okay, so would anybody like to share anything else before we wrap up our meeting with a breath square? Yes, Susan.
Yes, just briefly, your email came just in time, because as you're talking about the ways that we can help ourselves, I am in counseling, and I've been in counseling for the past 2 years. And unfortunately, my insurance has changed. So I moved out of state and got married. So I'm under my husband's insurance. So I can't see my counselor anymore. So I'm going through that, that separation anxiety. So when and I felt like my husband said, well, what do you think could help you? And I said, I think being in a group of Black women. So this was, the universe just aligned this for me. So I'm just so grateful, and thank you to you. And just being here gives me a sense of peace. So thank you.
I'm
Here
so
with all
happy
of
to
you.
hear that. Yay. And I am working on finding ways, because insurance is an issue, right? For all of us, insurance can be a problem. Affording therapy can be challenging. And as a therapist, seeing as many people as need to be seen is just not possible, right? There's so much more need than I can fulfill. So one of the things I'm working on for 2023 is finding a way to help more people in small groups where there's high accountability and high support for each other. That is more affordable. It's they're more kind of coaching groups than therapeutic groups, but definitely, especially if you've been in therapy for a couple of years, then at this point, having the community and the support is probably what you need more than having the clinical, therapy. And so I'm working on that, Susan. So I'll make sure you pay attention to the emails, because something's coming out, and I'm looking for people to help me smooth out any rough edges as I start. And so we'll be starting the first program in March. And so that is soon, right around the corner. And if you are interested, I will be announcing that soon. I'm putting all the foundation in place so that we can make sure that we can support each other in a way that works. Yay. All right, welcome. I know we had somebody else that just joined us or is joining us, Joanne. Okay. Joanne.
Welcome. Well, I'm Ciaja Blake. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you welcome Joanne, and then
No,
I'll speak.
it's okay, Joanne. Just turn on. Go ahead, Miss Blake, speak.
Oh, thank you. Just like Susan, hi. I have too also been on a journey with seeing a therapist because I am overwhelmed with work, being a single parent with a teenage child and a toddler,
Oh, yeah.
and not having much support when it comes to trying to be an active parent, but also trying to be a correction officer.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been also trying to be in a healthy relationship with my partner, and it's not healthy at all. So as I'm on this journey with redefining myself and finding myself, I've realized going to individual sessions is wonderful and I love it, but my therapist did start to encourage me to go into sister group sessions because the support and the ability to be able to see other Black women go through their journey has been enlightening to me because I don't feel alone. I see women like me who are going through everything. And this week, my journey has been beautifully aligned with my thoughts, even the words that were mentioned this evening, with vision board, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy that I'm not giving up. I'm happy that I'm on this journey, and I'm happy to be a part of this group. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Blake. I have to say, you're about to bring me to tears. Whew, for so many reasons. One of them is I know what it's like to have a baby and a teenager. It's really interesting experience to be pulled in two different directions at once, because I got remarried, and then so I had a 15-year-old and a newborn at the same time. It was quite a thing. But just your words touch me so much. Community is so important. And yes, there is something wonderful and great about having an individual therapist and having somebody that is dedicated to listening to you. But it is also wonderful to have this opportunity to see and be seen, right? To know that other people are going through similar struggles, that we share some of the same traumas, some of the same triumphs, some of the same strength, and some of the same challenges, and to be supported and to be of support. Because there is something in giving that is also that gives to you as well. Sometimes the things that you say to support somebody else is exactly what you needed to hear. And so I'm excited, and hopefully you may be one of the people too that helps me as I am starting this new way of having very small groups of Black women supporting each other. That would be wonderful. All right, Joan, would you like to say something? I just want to give you an opportunity to, if you
No,
want to.
no,
No, okay, well,
I'm
welcome.
just listening.
Okay, thank you for coming. I'm going to, unless anybody else would like to say anything, I'm going to lead us through a breath square and a moment of meditation, and to help you move back into your evening with peace and love, and holding on, an ability to hold on to the mind shift that we created together today. All right, so for those of you who have never done this with me before, I am going to ask you to inhale for a slow count of 4, to hold the breath into your lungs for a slow count of 4, to exhale for a slow count of 4, and then to wait before you inhale again. I'm going to lead this by drawing a square in the air with my finger. You can watch my finger, you can draw a square around whatever screen you're watching me on, or you can close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. If you've never done this before, don't worry if you lose count or if it's difficult. Sometimes we need to practice these things. Just pick up wherever you can. If you've done it before, try to make each breath slower and deeper than the last. All right, here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Return to breathing as usual. And would anybody like to share how it felt to do the breath square? You guys all feeling relaxed and ready to go take a nap? Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for coming, for sharing this time and this space with us, for the shared love and support and community. I'm so happy you all made the time, and I hope to see you guys all again next month. definitely let me know if there's anything in particular that I can support with. I am doing videos on YouTube and putting out positive messages. So I want to support with whatever you need. It's my pleasure to be here. This is what God intends me to do. And I'm so happy to be in alignment with what the universe would have me do. Thank you so much. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aku.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Mommy, why are you calling?